Michael Laderman with Mr. Casual, Charlie DeChant, sax player for Daryl Hall and John Oates since 1976. Charlie, you have a new online course out on udemy.com called Sax Education. Why did you start that? Why did you do that?
Originally, I had done a recording of my sax solos on some of Hall Oates' biggest hits, of 6 songs that I played on that had sax solos by me in them. And so why don't we just do an online course teaching like intermediate students, intermediate and advanced saxophone players to play how to play my solos. And we went on from there. And like since the coronavirus hit, this is probably an ideal time for people to be in their homes learning something.
Quite a few people are asking, how did you get your start with Daryl and John? Did they find you? Did you find them? So what was the story with you connecting first initially in 1976 with Daryl Hall and John Oates?
All right. Well, the story, I was playing in Miami with a disco band, and where was it? It was at anyhow, I was playing with a disco band, and a couple of guys that I knew that I had played with in Miami had gone up to New York, and they had somehow or another gotten with Hall & Oates before they had a lot of big hits. And they had just, while Eddie and Steve were in the band, Sarah Smile had become a hit. And so that was very popular, and they wanted to add another piece to the band. So they had, guitar, keyboards, Daryl and John, guitar and keyboards also, bass and drums. And so they wanted to add somebody that played saxophone, Hammond organ, and conga drums. And so they auditioned some guys in New York. They didn't like any of those guys. And so Eddie and Steve said, well, what about Charlie? He's in Miami. He could definitely do this, plus he sings and plays keyboards and whatnot. So they sent me a tape and they said, learn these songs and come up for the audition. So I came up for the audition. I learned. So in fact, there was a solo in the solo when She's Gone, which was done by a really well-known jazz saxophone player, Joe Farrell, on soprano sax solo. And I'm saying, I'm going to have to actually write this out and learn this note for note. So, which I hadn't really done that sort of thing very much before in my life. It was actually the first solo I had ever really transcribed. So I learned it, and plus I went up. Daryl was producing Steve Dees' record. He was a producer for Steve Dees. So I came up. I played on the record, and so he got a chance to see me in an actual, recording thing. And then the next day I auditioned with the band. Can you play this on the keyboard? Yeah, I can do this, And then we tried out, I did some vocal harmonies. So I'm, the utility guy. And then when the conga drums thing, I said, in Miami, I have tried to play conga drums and it tears up my hands. So please don't make me play conga drums. So they got me some sort of electronic bongos that I played. And so, actually I said, oh, okay, you're in the band. I said, what? And I wasn't even sure that I was going to get the gig. So I need to speak with my wife, So I spoke with my wife, and she said, "No, absolutely not." And I said, "Well, let's give it a year." And I said, "All right, okay." So we gave it a year, and it's been like 46 years now. So,
how did they find Eddie and Steve in Miami?
They didn't. Eddie and Steve went up to New York. I think they knew somebody in New York. You have to know somebody if you're going to move to a different city. I've made the mistake of moving to a different city without knowing anybody. And for some reason, I never got any gigs, because I didn't know anybody. So, I don't know exactly how they ran into that. But I was in the band with Eddie and Steve, Todd Sharp on guitar, Dave Kent on keyboard, Daryl and John. That was the band. And I think that band lasted for about, after I joined them, maybe 2 years. Then they started replacing members and whatnot. I've been through several entire bands. Sometimes one member will change, and then I don't know, a year later there'll be somebody else in that position, whatever. But yeah, I've been through a lot of different bands.
All right, this is a question you're going to like. You're going to like this question because of how
Okay.
much you enjoy improvising. A question came in: how much of your solos during the live concerts
Uh-huh.
are improvised, or do you know exactly what you're going to do when you do your big solos?
Yes. So, I usually get a chance to do some improvisation, and lately it's been within No Can Do. I Can't Go For That is the song, to open up and improvise on. It has a tendency lately to go to kind of the same places, but there's still improvisation. There's also solos that I play note for note the same way every night, and there's also solos that I play note for note and sort of improvise on them and add some things or whatever. You have to change it up a little bit just to keep your interest. Um, or you're playing something exactly the same every night. But if you're playing in a big band, there's certain things that you want to get the notes exactly right so that they fit with what everybody else is doing. What we've lately been doing in Maneater, I play the solo like it is, and John will be doing my echo. John Oates will be doing my echo on guitar. We had a string section which used to do the echo in Maneater. Oh, that was kind of fun.
I love the extended solos that we could all find online on YouTube for I Can't Go For That, No Can Do.
Uh-huh.
Some of the performances of that extend for 2, 3, 4 minutes. You could tell so many times in watching those videos when Daryl is trying to guide you a certain way or when the band is trying to guide you a certain way. Is there a fun battle back and forth of when you're playing that and you're actually able to improvise for 2, 3, or 4 minutes based on what the band wants you to do and based on what you want to do at that time?
Oh yeah, it's always a give and take. It's like a conversation. There's going to be a give and take in the conversation, or or it's going to be a monologue. It's never a monologue for me. I always like the best solos that I've improvised solos that I have played have been I'm listening to everybody else more than I'm listening to myself, and I'm just responding to what's going on.
For those 3 and 4 minute solos that you're able to do and you're able to improvise, is that the most fun you have when you're on stage during a live performance?
Yeah, pretty much. That's kind of my favorite part, and I have some fun. Like I'll Porter Carroll, who stands next to me on stage, is a percussionist, vocalist, and we kind of like have a little how would you call it, a interaction, that we'll have some moves that we do, and it kind of like that's the kind of thing that develops during like many many performances. You have so basically most of the night I'm either singing background vocals, blending in with the rest of the guys in the band, or playing keyboards, or usually both, some percussion, and every once in a while I get to take a sax solo.
What is your favorite song to perform with Daryl and John?
um, I would have to say lately it's been No Can Do, just because that's the song that I get to improvise on. And there's a lot of songs that I like, but that's my favorite one so far. I mean, if it was a different song that I improvised on, that would be the one then. And in fact, it has been a different song. It was like we used to, the section that I got to expand on, or you know, I used to walk out in the audience. In fact, I used to walk out in the audience with a long cord on my horn, before we had wireless. And that was interesting because I had to have a guy from the crew following me with the wire, making sure nobody stepped on it, That was fun. But it used to be sweet soul music. We used to do Arthur Conley sweet soul music was our big improvising kick out the jam song. And Daryl even played trombone on that one.
Didn't know he could play trombone.
He played trombone in high school, and he still has his old trombone, And in fact, he's pretty much got everything that he's ever owned. He's got that either in a closet in his house or in a storage room somewhere. Much like me, I'm kind of a pack rat. You see my library in back of me. I've read most of those books too.
I was just going to say, I've been in that office multiple times of yours. You have not just a huge, impressive book collection, you also have a really impressive flute collection on your wall.
Yeah, I could probably show that to you. Should I show it to you?
Can you without...
Without what? Here, I'm going to take this and I'll show you my flute collection. That's a pretty good ethnic flute collection. Whoa, 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 whoa. There they are. I've got more, but I didn't have room for them on the perf board. There's a couple of bamboo saxophones over here above the door, and a giant a bass recorder, and I've got a didgeridoo, which I can't really play, but I have one. Oh, and I have a piano, a baby grand piano right here.
So behind you, over your shoulders, you have a bunch of what looks like platinum records.
There's gold records. There's a bunch of them. Gold records, platinum records. They're records, This is old. Remember when we used to have records that you put the needle down on them and played them? This is kind of like the museum of obsolete technology. I've got CDs over here. Look, CDs. I got a whole bunch of those. I've got tapes. There's tapes there, cassette tapes. I've got reel-to-reel. I can't even see where that went to. I have the cassette recorders. I've got a Betamax that I kept around for some reason. I don't know.
When Daryl and John are recording their new album, because there's talks, they've said that they're actually working now back and forth on something new. Do you personally hope for sax-heavy songs?
I don't. There may be too much to hope, but usually I'll get 2 or 3 songs that I'll get to play sax on their whatever project they're working on. Sometimes more than that. Sometimes there'll be a horn section, maybe two saxes, or there might be a sax and trumpet. Sometimes there's like 3 saxes and a trumpet, and maybe even a trombone involved in it. But you never can tell. So whatever the song requires.
He's Charlie DeChant. I'm Michael Laderman. Keep those questions coming on Facebook. You can find him at Mr. Casual Charlie DeChant, or on the web, www.charliedechant.com.